Tony D and Little Joan in the background, and we're talking about, yes, it's finally dropped, the trailer for Ironheart. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Check out my books. The links are in the description. Comedy horror in South Jersey. It's the Pineys. Books 1 through 17. Available at Amazon.com. Don't forget, Kindle Unlimited is free. This is not going to go well for Disney. They're putting a lot of money behind this character. And the problem is, it's just not an organic character. This is a cynical attempt to capture an audience. Oh, the guy from Community. Very cynical. It's looking at various audience types and saying, oh, okay, we need a character for that group. And so they've created Ironheart, which I use the term created very, very loosely in that sentence. It's doing a lot of heavy lifting. And this is black female Iron Man who's better than any other Iron Man because she's black and female. Did I mention she's black and female? The design on the iron suit itself ain't all that great. But, you know, they had to change it. It's, of course, got a hip-hop soundtrack. And it's very much the story of... And in here, you've got... Didn't Iron Man do this? Somebody did this in a show. One of the superheroes did this maneuver where they pounded down the front of the truck and it flipped over. I think it was Iron Man, but it might not have been. It might have been Hulk. I don't remember. But yeah, it's just very derivative, taking bits and pieces from more popular characters and trying to say, no, this is the more popular Iron person, Ironheart. Yeah, see, I think this is a poor design. It doesn't look like anything. And the ironic thing, the character in the trailer says, I want to create something iconic. That doesn't look iconic. That's too complicated to be iconic. It's a poorly designed suit. There's like too much on the front and too much on the shoulders. I'm not even sure what they were going for here. But again, I think Disney is following, or the MCU is following the comic books down a rat hole. And the comic books went to hell the moment Joe Quesada was, I believe, asked to step aside and train his replacement who knew nothing about comics. The story couldn't be more tropey for a black character growing up in an urban environment. There's a lot of shady stuff going on. I think she doesn't have a dad in the picture, but I'm not sure. And in order to finance her Iron Man suit, some local shady guy is going to finance her, who turns out to be way more than just a little bit shady, and then she has to fight him. Probably. I don't know. And there's some superpowers involved. I don't really care. It just looks like the same old crap. I also think this is an attempt at, Disney's looking down the road now at copyright issues with a bunch of their characters, and they want to make sure they have a bunch of replacement characters for them that they own outright that no one can touch. The problem is they will, but who cares about Ironheart? I mean, this was a comic that made American Chavez look kind of popular, and Ms. Marvel. They've been pushing it and pushing it. It hasn't caught. Just hasn't caught. Because it's probably too similar to a bunch of other characters, even if you compare them to like superhero characters and just urban characters. Just urban characters growing up in the hood and trying to get by. And I mean, you could have done something new with this character. Something that was out of the box. The organic way to go with this would have been something like, Ironheart doesn't actually wear the suit. She sends the suit or a robot around the city and works it from her apartment. I mean, Tony Stark already did that in the third movie. And then, another thing you could have done is you could have just changed her origin. But again, it's about capturing a perceived market. I should say perceived market. And the people trying to make this calculation aren't creatives. They're corporate people, in my view. They might consult a few creative people, but they don't really, in my view, listen to them. Because creative people would say, well, if you're going to do a new character that will capture, let's say young black females, you wouldn't do a superhero comic at all. You would do something about, what young black females like. I mean, I can speculate, it would be a character that was probably in something like the fashion industry, and, it would have a lot of drama in it and a lot of relationships because, again, that's what a female audience tends to like. It would probably take place in an urban environment. Maybe it could take place in, say, a southern state. But it wouldn't be a superhero show. That's for boys. You can try to astroturf this all you want as some sort of lifestyle. Most women don't like superheroes. Most women don't like action. And what ends up happening is, as they're making the show, they're trying to attract that audience, and they either drift into, well, we got to make it more appealing to women. Let's add some more boyfriends or intrigue with the various characters and their relationships, which drives away the people who tuned in for the superhero stuff, generally the men. And if they go the other way, it brings in more men and then drives away the women, but that's the audience they wanted to attract in the first place to get them to, I guess, buy into the lifestyle. See, a few years ago, they wanted to turn Marvel into a lifestyle brand. Why? Because someone had an idea and an ego that would dwarf Mount Kilimanjaro and thought that was a good idea, and no one stopped them. No one said, this is a really dumb idea. Like, you wouldn't even manage... First off, in some ways, the Marvel Comics milieu was already a lifestyle brand for boys. But a lifestyle brand for boys doesn't mean a lot of product. Yeah, we might buy a t-shirt, and we'd certainly buy the comics. But we're not going to tune into a podcast about cooking or fashion. We're not going to buy a bunch of, colognes and other branded merchandise that you people's trying to sell us. I get it. You want to appeal to women. You can make stuff for women. Ever think of that? Ever think of making some, some romance comics, which were pretty big back in the 40s, and then spinning them off into TV shows and just making them more iconic? Who is this for? Young black girls. Okay. It's probably a window of time when young girls are not really looking for relationships and are just into pretty much anything that you show them that looks a little bit exciting. That's kind of a small audience. Even girls as young as 4 to 6 would read Archie. That's usually how they learn to read. And Archie is about a relationship. It's about a love triangle between Archie, Veronica, and Betty. Always has been. And that's why girls always love it. The boys like it too because they're so young. Again, there's not a lot of division there. And Archie in the past was just wholesome and very basic. Not a lot would happen. Maybe Moose would beat up Jughead or Reggie or something, but no, you wouldn't see any real violence. You might see the indication of violence. This is like, a character, even the actress seems to be struggling to try to make this work. You know? Um, it just doesn't feel like an exciting time. It feels like a presentation, which that's not what a narrative or a Marvel narrative used to be. It used to be something that would draw you in because it was very organic. Tony Stark's story, even the movie version of it, drew you in because the story was he was a weapons manufacturer who gets captured by terrorists, and then he has to build the Iron Man suit to save his own life. It's pretty desperate. This is a character who's like, well, she's a genius. Okay? She's such a genius. And yet she seems to be trapped in the inner city. She's going to MIT. Okay. But she's not getting money offers, and she's so smart she accepts an offer from a guy who, in my view, from the trailer, obviously looks a little sketchy and tries to kill her as an audition to seeing if she'll work for him. That just feels like someone sitting around pitching screenplay bits. It doesn't feel like an organic thing that in a slightly different world that could happen. Like a way to present this might have been, Riri lives in the inner city where she sees a lot of people get shot, and she builds a bulletproof suit, which she then later gets the idea to turn into an Iron Man suit after seeing Tony Stark or something. And she uses it to fight crime in her local neighborhood because nobody else cares. And then you could have made it, basically an Iron Man suit made out of junk like Tony Stark's was in the first one. And she could add to it later as maybe she fought villains with better technology, and then she could bastardize their technology and add it to her own. That would have been kind of cool, because then like her suit would be all weird and wonky, and it could change in every episode. This is just like so damn slick. How did this kid build all this? Oh, she's a genius. Okay. She's a genius when the script wants her to be a genius. When the script wants her to be normal teenager, then she's not a genius anymore. It also has the character acting very arrogant, which isn't a trait you want in a protagonist. You want to root for them. You want to feel like, oh man, poor Riri, or oh man, Riri's trying to help people out, and nobody's helping her, right? So you want to see a scene in which she saves a family from some, a drive-by shooting or something, and then the family kids are like afraid of her because of her crazy-looking Iron Man suit, and then they run away. Oh, that's not Iron Man. And then you kind of feel bad for her, like, oh man, she did all that sacrifice, and nobody's even thanking her. Then you would be like, oh, I want this character to get her due. Instead, she already works at MIT. She already has access to all kinds of equipment, and then she stupidly throws in with a guy who's obviously shady, and her own mother warns her. So I haven't read the comic. I may have gotten a couple of the background of the details wrong, but again, I don't think the people who created this character cared about any of that. They said, here are the parameters. You remember the Simpsons episode with Poochie? Yeah, this is Poochie in the MCU. They created a character they thought would be popular based on the driving zeitgeist they perceived at the time. Except that the show's been delayed for years. The zeitgeist has definitely moved. And I don't think the zeitgeist was particularly accurate to begin with. I think it was mostly artificially astroturfed by forces behind the scenes that wanted to manipulate people's opinions and, think that they can completely change the zeitgeist. The zeitgeist cannot be moved a great deal. It can be influenced. It can be guided to some degree a little bit, but it's kind of like a lumbering leviathan beast. You can't move it much, and you certainly can't control it or predict it, because creative people are very unpredictable. They're not giving, I think, at Disney, the creative people license to create. They're telling them what to create. And this has always been a problem with creative endeavors if you've ever had clients. I've had clients and they hire me and they have a general idea of what they want. So I'll go off and I'll write some stuff and then I'll come back to them. And sometimes they'll go, oh, this isn't what I wanted. And I'll go, well, it's not exactly what you wanted, but it is what you wanted. And creatively, this works because of X, Y, and Z. And they'll tell me, no. You're writing it wrong. And I'll be like, well, you hired me, the writer, the expert, and you're treating me like, you asked me to fill up a ditch. And then, I didn't fill it up correctly. And now you're going to, empty out all the sand and refill it yourself. So this is kind of what this all feels like. It feels like the corporate guys dictating to the creative guys what to do, and then of course they turn around and throw them under the bus the moment this stuff fails. And I think this is going to fail spectacularly. I don't think this is going to pick up a particular amount of people. They don't, maybe if they had a big name actress in the lead, they, but you compare this to a show and it's got a similar audience thing. I would compare it to Wednesday. I know that's a weird comparison, but hear me out. Wednesday is a character. She's a young woman, and she was already kind of popular, right? And she's already kind of in a world that, and they changed the character, right? They made her older so they could give an excuse to put her in a school and let Jenna Ortega play her. And there was already a YouTube show with an older Wednesday, and goth chicks are a thing. So like that all kind of aligned. So I don't know if, and Jenna Ortega is talented, don't get me wrong, but I don't know if it was really Jenna Ortega or just that she happened to hit the right character at the right moment. The Addams Family is very popular, and that was a way to sort of expand its universe. Now, personally, I don't like the show. I don't like the direction they're going with it, but they did have Tim Burton involved, and they turned it into a franchise or whatever. And it is organic in that Wednesday is being, progressed in the storyline that already existed. They're not really changing much other than adding too many characters, in my view, who are wacky and have supernatural elements to them. In this, they're kind of not like doing what you need to do, right? They've kind of, there's kind of a tie-in to Wakanda, I guess. But that kind of doesn't work, partly because the Wakanda Forever movie didn't work. It wasn't going to work. We kind of all saw that. And they're just expanding off that universe, much like the Thunderbolts expanded off of, the Black Widow movie, and it's just not working, in my view. Now that's at a bigger scale. It's more named people in it, more money behind it, but this is going on to Disney Plus. You can't even see it unless you have Disney Plus. So that's a huge problem right there. Like if they put this on Disney Plus, right? You put it on Disney Plus for like a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever it is, and then 6 months later you run it on ABC so everybody could see it, then maybe. because then maybe 6 months later you would pick up a huge audience for the show. They would watch and go, oh, this was a good show. And then a few months later, season 2 comes out on Disney Plus, and you're like, well, I could wait 6 months or I could get Disney Plus. Like, that to me would be the way to do it. But you would also get better feedback on the show from a general audience. And you could see, you know, if you put it on ABC, exactly who would watch it, kind of thing. So I just don't know why they did this. Let's read it. All new series from executive producer Ryan Coogler launches with a 3-episode premiere. Now, some people were bashing Ryan Coogler for promoting the show. He's the EP on it. So, of course, that's probably why he is the EP. So they can lend his credibility to the movie. And it's a perfect time because he's coming off of Sinners. Let's see what we got here in terms of Ironheart. Is it all one word? I think it is. Ironheart. Here it is. TV miniseries. So now it's a miniseries. I think because they put a ton of money in this, they kind of have to air it and try to get some money back. Genius teenager inventor Riri Williams creates the most advanced suits of armor since Iron Man. Doesn't even look that advanced, quite frankly. Creator Chinaka Hodge. Creator Chinaka Hodge. Usually they have director in there. Why do they have creator? Let's see who wrote this thing. I'm very interested to see the writing on this. Okay, all cast and crew. Directors are Samantha Bailey and Angela Barnes. Chinaka Hodge wrote 2 episodes. Brian Michael Bendis wrote the comic. Ugh. Mike Deodato Jr. also worked on it. Written by Frances Gales and Jacqueline Gales. Are they sisters? Known for She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. Although, also worked on The Tick. Wow. How do you go from working on The Tick, a funny show, to going on She-Hulk, Attorney at Law? Wow. Punky Brewster? Well, that's interesting. Let's see. Jacqueline Gales. Also She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. Punky Brewster on my block. Don't know what that is. Twisted Metal. Mallory Howard. Thor Love and Thunder. Wouldn't brag about that one either. Worked on that. Not sure. Not a lot of writing credits here. Christina Martinez. Good Trouble. Women of the Movement. The Fosters. Amir Suleiman. American Sharia. Well, that's an interesting credit. But not a lot of credits. Not a lot of credits at all. And then this person just, I guess, has got a co-writing credit. Yeah, writer credit for Ironheart. There's almost no writing credits on this entire list of people. Let's look at Chinaka. Amazing Stories. Oh, that was the 2021. Snowpiercer. Oh, gross. Yeah, so not a lot of great, powerful credits here, I would say. And on top of the fact, I mean, Brian Michael Bendis is probably the best one on that list. I didn't read the original comic, but it's still, even with him on it, it didn't catch. It didn't catch. It also doesn't feel like him. Quite frankly, doesn't feel like a comic he'd normally write. So, yeah, I think this is going to be a train wreck. I mean, the usual videos will come out about how low the ratings are, where it ranks, and all the Disney Plus shows. And they're going to put this character in some of the movies. They may even just renew the series, just sort of blindly, hoping that, throwing her in the movies will help. But I just really think it's a cynical ploy to sell toys and more crap. I don't think it's going to go very far. It's sort of the character. What Marvel and DC would both do sometimes, they would have these eras where a bunch of characters got created and some of them just weren't popular. But then 20 years would pass and somebody, one of the writers or creators at Marvel, would say, "Oh, I always kind of liked that character. I read that when I was a kid and it disappeared for whatever reason." Like me, I'm a huge fan of Power Man and Iron Fist, which I don't think gets its due. But 20 years from now, somebody might take this character and actually make something of it, the way they envisioned it could be. But right now, I would say no bueno. Anyhow, that's it for me, Tony D and Little Joan. Check us out on all our various links on the orange site, the green site, and the black site for more videos. Thursday, is that tomorrow? Yeah, that's tomorrow. I'm going to be at the Farmstead for my talk on Legends of the Pines. This will be all the other legends in the Pines other than the Jersey Devils. So tune in to that at 6:30. Then the Unexpected Farm on Friday, barring a rainstorm, which we may or may not get. iHeart Horror on Saturday in Sayreville, New Jersey, and Mayfair at Smithville Historic Park on Sunday from 11 to 4. Hope to see you there. See you in the next one.